Welcome to This Week in the PNFL. I'm your host, Mark Hill, and along for the ride is Mitch Grawl and Dean Chambers. How you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Where you at,
Doing
Mitch?
just fine.
There
Doing
you,
just
there he
fine.
is. There he is. All right. So, I guess it's safe to say that this last week's games was heartbreak week 13. There were some teams that were on the bubble, and they were in a must-win game. Some of them have already fallen out of playoff contentions, and some are they're teetering. But I mean, it's just going to be a little feather that can just knock them off, and they're going to be knocked out of the picture altogether. But we're going to go through all of that and discuss it.
Are you saying some of those bubbles have been burst?
I would say some of those bubbles have been burst, and a few of them, someone's sitting there. Little Timmy is there with the needle, and he's pushing on some of the other ones, just getting ready to go push on some of the other ones. So the ones that didn't pop last week are definitely probably will pop this week. So, ooh, not good
Is
for.
that a little foreshadowing to your predictions this week?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I have
Gotcha.
to
No,
agree
no
with some
more,
of
no,
those.
no rainbows and snowflakes for
No,
Mark
no more
anymore.
rainbow sprinkles and fairy
Just
dust. No.
straight truth, no chaser now for Mark.
Yeah, straight truth, no chaser. Yeah, there's I try to play the help everybody out, but yeah, it's not gonna work this week. I think I should know because my Hawks are one of the teams out there. So trying to be everything to everybody just doesn't work. So
No.
yeah, so cautionary tale for some of you people out there. Anyway, so we're gonna go over that. Middle segment, we're going to talk about the playoff race right now, and as we're narrowing it down, just like I just mentioned, some of the teams that are falling off, some that are definitely on the bubble, and if they don't get off the schneid this week, then they are. You might as well go ahead and start handing out forks and putting forks in them. So we're going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off here. First game that we have on our list. Let's see, what do we have? For week 13, we have Pittsburgh hosting Jacksonville, and Pittsburgh walking away with a 21-10 victory. We are going to start off with you, Dean.
Well, we know one thing. Jacksonville didn't give up any scores to the Jets this week. But if you look at this game, you look at most of the stats, you think Jacksonville had a chance to win this game and maybe did win the game. But because you look, they had more first downs. They punted only once, and Pittsburgh punted 3 times. They had more third down conversions. They had more net passing yards. They had almost as many net rushing yards. But I think the key difference here is Jacksonville turned the ball over 3 times. I think that's the key stat here that accounts for this loss.
Definitely. Mitch, what you got?
Well, you look at that Pittsburgh defense. I mean, the player of the game, you could have gone to Yeadon or Walker in those spectacular interceptions that they had. But, kind of like Deed said, and this happened in a lot of games this week, the old adage, guns don't kill people, turnovers do. And I think that was a big impact on this game as well as many others this week. But Pittsburgh has kept themselves alive and, one game, well, yeah, basically one game out of a playoff spot. So taking it to the wire.
All right. Next game we have New England hosting Indy, and yeah, as we said last week, I don't know what happened out in New England, but Indy walked off with a 31-10 victory. Mitch.
Well, the Minutemen, did not show up again this week. Indianapolis did more than walk off with the win. They walked it off, ran it off, passed it off. Did a little rugby, volley down the field. If you were an Indy fan, you had a lot of fun with this game. If you were a New England fan, you left after the first, after opening kickoff, I think. But tough game for New England. I'm going to say they're done for the season. And Indianapolis, you know, again, they're all games right now for Indy, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh are basically playoff games. So Indy keeping pace.
All right, Mitch. Dean.
Yeah, Mitch, you want to talk about guns? I think the guns in this case are aimed squarely at the feet of the Minutemen, as you call them. They went 0 for 9 in third down conversions, 0 of 2 for fourth down conversions. They punted 6 times. They only held the ball for 24 minutes and 30 seconds, and they had a fumble that was lost. New England is definitely falling apart coming down to the end of the season.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that in the middle segment. I got a question on that for you guys. I want to get your opinion on that one. So, next game that we have on our list, we have Las Vegas hosting Minnesota, and a very tight game, but Minnesota managed to pull off a 14-13 win. Dean.
Yeah, as you all know, I disagreed with both of you and Rich, and I predicted the upset that Las Vegas was going to win this game. And early in the game, Las Vegas was looking good. They had a 13-0 lead, and I believe it was 10-0, and they kicked a field goal. And I remember thinking at that moment, because I've seen how many times the Raiders' offense has just not done very well in the second half, and that was, I believe, late in the second half. I thought, at some point in the second half, the Raiders are going to need to score at least one more time to have enough points to hold on. I knew that 13 points wasn't going to be enough. No matter how well their defense played, 13 points was not going to be enough points to beat Minnesota. And as you can see, Minnesota came back in the last 15 to 20 minutes of the game with 2 touchdowns, and that was enough to win the game. And, the Raiders played tough. I think, certainly once again, this, as in many instances, their offense didn't score in the second half, and that's something that they'll be working on. But don't be surprised to see that the Raiders will be a tougher team to beat next season.
All right. What you got over there, Dean? Mitch. Oh, my God. What am I doing here? Mitch.
You are like so jacked up tonight.
Yes, I am jacked up tonight.
Are you back on med? Are you on those pain meds?
Actually, no. I'm writing down some questions because I got some things I want to ask you guys about a couple of these teams. And I was writing down one. And I said, I'm going to ask this one for Mitch. I'm going to have this one. I'm going to ask this one for Dean. So I happened to get right in between two of them because there's two teams that there's two teams. Hold on, there's two teams that I really want to know about. I want to ask you guys about. So yes, that's what that's. All right, no more note taking for me.
I'll make this quick. Minnesota, barely, but they did win this game. Just as I think you and I had the lead pipe locked this past week, so I was happy to see that. But for the first 3 quarters, it looked like Las Vegas was going to be able to, squeak this thing out. But Lamar and the Purple People Eaters came alive there and got those 2 late touchdowns, and stole the game and went back home. So. Keeping pace. That AFC playoff race is heating up.
It is definitely getting tight. Definitely. Next game we have Detroit hosting Washington. Another tight game, another close game. Washington ended up leaving with a 20-17 win on that one. Mitch.
All right, well, Bob, Kyler Murray had a great game. In fact, won Player of the Week. Usually our players of the week tend to have a little bit higher numbers, but this week was, kind of funky all the way around. But there were 289 and 2 touchdowns, leading the Redskins to a closer than expected victory, I would say, that most people probably were thinking about. But I'm sure the Redskins will take the victory nonetheless.
All righty then. Yeah, I guess they would be happy with that one. That one
Yes.
was a very tight game. I think who do we pick on that one? We did, all three of us picked Washington on that one. So we were pretty much centered on that one. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, this was statistically close, and I was expecting Washington to cover the spread, which, what was that spread, like 89 points or something? But they did not do that, winning by 3.
Was that
This was
spread on
close.
that game was 13 and a half.
Wow, maybe we should have picked otherwise, because that spread is, I mean, certainly hindsight is 2020, and you see that spread was much too large. And, I think maybe this is a note to make here that maybe some of these teams, certainly including Washington, when they have a spread that large, we should think about maybe picking at least against the spread the other way. Looking at saying, Washington will win, but they're not going to cover 13 and a half points.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we said that one. No, yeah, I think we did. I had to go back and run the tape, but I believe we said that they were going to win, but not by the spread. I think it was going to be a much closer game on that.
Yeah, you did. I said they would cover the spread, and they did not.
Yep. So, next game we have Atlanta hosting the Giants, and you talk about the previous game was a tight one. How about 1 point on this one? And Atlanta eked away with a 10-9 win. We're going to start with you on this one, Mitch.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you got Marklin McCall, dominating the New York Giant offensive line, there was no doubt why, no one could get into the end zone, and they had to settle for 3 field goals. But, both teams struggled getting the ball into the end zone. The Falcons were able to move the ball. They just couldn't get it in the end zone. They did get one time. They get it into one time out there. But the Giants, other than Saquon Barkley in his 80 yards, not a whole lot to speak of on the offensive side. So nice job, Atlanta, holding the usually pretty powerful Giants offense down to 3 field goals.
All right, Coach Chambers, what do you have over there?
Well, there was a bit of luck involved here. I don't know if it was a profile error or just a very risky chance. The Giants went for first down on a 45 with their own 26, and that's what led to the game's only touchdown, because otherwise the defenses were very solid in this game and the offenses were not very good. And my team's offense was particularly solid. You look at those numbers, you see that Daniel Jones only completed 8 passes out of 21 attempts, and he gets sacked 6 times. So that's what helped hold the Giants at just 3 field goals. My offense looked pretty good at times, but it didn't lead to a whole lot of scoring. There's still definitely some issues with the offense that will need to be addressed.
Okay. That was, like I said, very tight game. I think you had mentioned it as well. So, would you say that? Nope. I almost wrote another one down. Nope. I'll save it for later. Next game. Seattle hosting San Francisco, and very tough loss. Another close game, and San Francisco taking this one 13-10. Dean.
Yeah, this is another situation. I thought the Seattle defense looked very solid, and San Francisco played well on defense too. But I think the big difference here is that Seattle just didn't manage to score very much. I mean, better third down conversions, more rushing yardage, but definitely more passing on the part of San Francisco. But 10 points isn't quite good enough. Well, it generally doesn't. It did in my game, but it almost didn't. Generally, 10 points isn't going to win very many games.
No, not at all. Mitch, go ahead. Then I'll throw a little commentary in there.
Yeah. No, well, I look at this game, and I think the difference here was 3 points, 13-10. Nah, I got more than that. Zach Wilson kind of resorted back to Zach Wilson a few weeks ago with those 2 picks. That did not help. But even when he wasn't throwing picks, he really wasn't able to stretch that defense, at all. And San Francisco was able to kind of sit and squat down there on the Seattle offense and, keep it within bay. But I will say that Seattle run defense was pretty stout. 1.1 yards a carry for San Francisco. They sure as heck weren't moving the ball on the ground. So, just got to balance some things out there in Seattle.
And a lot of punting going on. Yeah. 15 punts total in the game. Yeah. Punters were busy.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, yeah. The Australians really loved watching that.
Oh, yeah, Australian rules. Now, I will say this, put a lot of time in it as far as trying to stop on the defensive side, which I think you guys agree that's pretty much successful in doing that. The offensive side, just a little bit more things that had to been should have been looked at a little bit better. The 2 interceptions that were there. The first one, I'll say, well, any interception is bad. The first one really, it hurt, but it didn't hurt that bad because it was deep and they didn't really get anything off of that drive, so that was good. The second one definitely hurt because we were just getting ready to knock on that, get inside the 20, and I think that one would have made all the difference in there, either a field goal or even better, a touchdown. So the interceptions has to stop. More work needs to be done, but the defense, they definitely stood up and pulled their weight on that one. We just couldn't get it done. So next game we have New Orleans hosting Anaheim, and another tight game this week. This one, New Orleans walked away with a 17-15 victory. Mitch.
No, I'll tell you what, you don't see many players of the game that are quarterbacks that have a 46% completion percentage and only threw for 200 yards. But we did this week with old Clayton Thorson. Thor himself playing a little bit more like Loki, even though New Orleans was able to pull out the victory against Anaheim. Thor there did throw 2 touchdowns. And I think the big thing here, unlike some of the other games, or let me rephrase that. I think this game, like some of the other games, turnovers were a killer. Anaheim had 3 interceptions in this game. And so Dobbs, looked better from a passing yard standpoint and completion percentage, but those 3 picks absolutely killed his team and their chances to win this game.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, this was a closer game than I expected. I expected the Saints to win and cover the spread, and I think the turnovers really are huge. If Joshua Dobbs doesn't throw those 3 turnovers, they may have been able to pull off an upset. This would have been a pretty big upset. As tough as a season Anaheim has had this season, if they'd been able to beat a team that made the playoffs last year and still may make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, definitely. They got to make sure they come through on those final games, and it's going to be real tight at the end. So as we come down to our final 2 games, the second to last game we have is Chicago hosting Kansas City, and another tight one. 2 touchdowns for Chicago, and we got to find out what happened over in KC, but we're going to start with Dean on this one.
Yeah, on this one, I expected Chicago to be a little stronger in this game. It was more competitive than I expected. And, as I watched the game, the Kansas City defense was playing very well and containing the Chicago offense, the normally high-scoring Chicago offense. And, halftime, you really didn't know which team was going to end up winning this game. It looked like it could go either way. And the Chiefs held the ball for nearly 36 minutes, 382 yards of total offense, completed 50% of third downs and 2 for 2 on fourth downs. So, those are some pretty solid numbers. But they came away with 2 field goals. I believe it's 2 field goals, unless it was
Yeah, it's 2 field goals.
2 field goals,
Mhm.
missed a field goal as well. But that didn't ultimately make a difference. 9 points here still would not have beat 14. But the difference ultimately is that the Cardinals scored 2 touchdowns, and that was enough to win a very tough, low-scoring game.
Mitch,
Yeah.
what's up, Coach?
Well, everything Dean said is right on the money. You look at this and you kind of go, on the stat sheet, other than one key statistic, you kind of go, well, golly, man, Kansas City, they should have won this game pretty easily. Until you go and you go, wait a minute. Oh, they had 4 turnovers in this game. So, 2 turnovers inside the 5-yard line, which obviously negated what could have or maybe should have been, a couple of touchdowns. So that hurt. And then as we have discussed on email, we did have that missed field goal, but that wasn't as painful as those 2 turnovers inside the 5. So kind of happened to Coach Tucker last year in our game. I think he had a fumble inside the 5, which helped me hold on to a victory. So I guess karma has paid me back this year. But good game. Not a whole lot I would have changed in the game plan, but other than, as Jerry said, maybe bought a little bit more stickum for some players. That's about it. So good game.
Yeah, good game, but I would say overall this week was like we talked pre-show, pretty much a tight game. I think it was, what do we say? It was like 5 games that was by 3 points or less, or 4 points or less, something like that.
It was a tight week for sure. Tight week.
Yeah, definitely a tight week. Indy had the highest scoring team this week.
Well, remember, we still have the Jets game to talk about.
Yep. So, let me round that last one up. So,
yeah, we gotta talk about them.
Yep. So, last game that we have, which is our marquee game, we have the Jets hosting LA, and another tight one. Even it's I don't know if. Well, yeah, this is going to be a playoff preview game with the Jets taking this one 17-7. I'm kind of curious on what you guys have to take. What you're going to take on this one, because it is the last season's champion, and then you have the. I don't want to give him the GOAT status yet, but it pretty much is the GOAT. So, is it more of the teacher beating the student? I'm really curious what you guys, your opinion on this outside of the numbers. So let's go ahead and start with you, Mitch.
I think Thomas decided that he was going to game plan very effectively and overcome maybe some mishaps in last year's playoff game, and remind everyone that he still runs the AFC until otherwise noted this season. So based on the stats, you'd have thought there would have been a few more points, but end of the day, that defense just completely shut down Los Angeles. So scary defense for sure.
Yeah. What do you have over there, Dean? What do you think?
If you look at these LA stats and you just pretend that you don't know which team it is, and you look at the stats, you see 1 of 10 on third down conversions, 108 total net yards, 37 yards rushing, 71 yards net passing. There's an interception, and time of possession only 17 minutes and 48 seconds. If you ask what team was that put up those numbers, what was that? New England? Was that Jacksonville?
Yeah.
No, this was the defending Super Bowl champions. I mean, it shows just how dominant that Jets defense was. The Jets offense, they moved the ball for 451 yards, somehow only come up with 17 points. Not quite sure how that happens, but they had 2 interceptions. That probably didn't help. Jones threw 2 interceptions and 0 touchdown passes. Very uncharacteristic for Mac Jones himself or any Jets quarterback. But, it was that excellent defense that the Jets played at, and that was more than likely going to win the game no matter what their offense did. And they gave up only a touchdown to the Chargers.
What I think on this one, you're talking about how L.A., with their lack of offense and the Jets with all of their offense, and you said, how did it happen? I would say that from a lot of these games this past week, by looking at them, there was a lot of teams with defenses that had that give but don't break. Eventually they gave something up, but instead of a big, like our normal high scoring point games, it just wasn't there. There's a lot of teams that might have given up all those yards inside the 20s, but when they're outside their 20 and before they go into the opponent's 20, but then all of a sudden they just kind of stopped and they just kind of locked it down to where, okay, you can run up and down the field all day, but when you get to this point, that's it. Go kick that field goal because you're not getting much over here. I think there was one game with a safety, and it's like, yeah, you're not getting anything else. So I think overall the defensive play this week was pretty good. So even though the numbers were up there, I think overall with the low scoring game and the tight scoring games, the defenses did all they could to keep their offenses into the game and set them up for a victory. So as we pivot over to our middle segment, we're talking about the current state of the playoff race right now. And a couple of little flubs I made early on when I was writing down some notes here. I got a couple.
These better be some good questions.
I have a couple questions.
Dean and myself tonight.
Yes. Well, what I was thinking was some of the things that we had talked about early on in the season. And I will say this early on, I'm not picking on any coaches out there. I'm not picking on any of the teams. This is just something that, to give you guys a little backstory, whenever we do our shows before, we talk for maybe about maybe 30 minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes or so before we actually start recording. And we kind of, give or take. So when you guys see the finished product about an hour, we've been talking for maybe about an hour, 30 minutes prior or 40 minutes prior before we even start putting stuff down, and I still managed to screw up by calling Mitch Dean and Dean Mitch.
And so that's when Dean and I try to figure out which one-liners we're going to throw at each other, things like that.
The interns aren't here today, so it was a nice sunny day. So all the interns called in sick and they went out to the beach, so they're not here. So. I'm going to go ahead and get these questions in first before I lose the thoughts on these. So, again, I'm not picking on any coaches out there or any teams. So, Mitch, for you, one of the things we talked about early in the season was New England, because New England was, they were running up some points. They were winning some games, and we were like, okay, we're scratching our heads, like, okay, they're turning it on, and then they just kind of dropped off. So my question for you is, from what you saw from the game tapes and from the stats and just your overall opinion, what happened to New England? Now, before you answer that, Dean, my question to you is, we talked early on and discussed that Detroit was going to turn around and was going to get themselves straight. And that's when you guys are kind of picking on me with the rainbow sprinkles and fairy dust that everybody's going to get a participation trophy. Everyone's going to be a winner. We talked about that in pre-show. What happened to Detroit? Your opinion on it from looking at the film and the stats and everything else, and your opinion on that. So those are the two questions that I have for you guys, specific questions, and then we can go ahead and talk about all the rest of the team. So I'm going to start with Dean on this one first. So you can either address the question that I have, or you can talk about the playoff race as a whole and then go to that question as well, or go to that question at the end. So your choice on how you want to order it up.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to make a few comments about the playoff races and answer your question, or try to answer that question. In the AFC, we're looking at Minnesota, Indianapolis tied at 7-6, and New England is 5-8. Looks to be kind of fading. Pittsburgh is 6-7, only a game out of it, still in it. And you know, there's one playoff spot available for the likely, because it's likely that the Jets, Chiefs, and Chargers are in. So the win by Minnesota over Indianapolis could be the tiebreaker if it is a tie, and that's not assured either. And there still is a chance that Pittsburgh could be the team of those three that sneaks in. I say three because New England is 2 games out and is probably not going to win it. In the NFC, San Francisco took an important step with that win, but the rest of their season is pretty tough. I mean, they could do anything from 2-1, maybe even 3-0, but they could end up 0-3 in the last 3 weeks. The Saints have an edge at 7-6. The Giants are still not out of it at 6-7. So it would be interesting. As to what happened with Detroit this season, I think their defense has generally been fairly good most weeks, although they have given up some points. But my guess is it probably has more to do with the offense not being as effective. I mean, they moved the ball and scored in some games, but they definitely have not. I mean, a team needs some degree of big plays on offense to be successful, and I think that's the one thing that Detroit has lacked this season, is some big plays on offense.
Okay, and that's now. Before I pass it over to Mitch, I am not above doing that self critique. I will say, because someone's saying, well, you guys, you're bringing these questions up. What about your team? I can tell you what happened on my team. One, it's the play calling, play structure. Picking the right plays. Well, maybe not picking the right plays, but put myself in the right play calling situation, which in turn, just showed up on the field with this hit and miss style. As we discussed in pre-show again, pretty much all the players are equal. So with all the players being equal, it basically comes down to your plays that you pick and your play calling situations. And I can say for my team, that's where my level was at right there, or where my mistakes came in from, wanting to do more of the strategizing. But you have some coaches out there that are really digging into it. And, it's like I said, any given Saturday, you can, you can be the truck or you can be the road. Take your pick. So getting that out of the way, Mitch, what do you got?
I'm still writing down those pros that you just shared with us there, Mark. So thank you. I'm going to write that down as I prepare for Los Angeles this week.
Yep.
Just kidding. No, New England. So to answer your question first, and I'll give some extra commentary around the playoff races. I'll tell you exactly what happened to New England. They ran into the tough part of their schedule. You look back, the first part of the year, when they had they started off the season, 2-0, had the win against Pittsburgh, had the fantastic second half against Atlanta, to go 2-0, kind of fell on their face against Detroit, and stumbled again against Jacksonville. But all in all, after basically after 9 weeks, they're 5-4. And you're thinking, well, okay, they're still in there. And then they ran into Chicago, Kansas City, Los Angeles, and then this year's kind of upstart team, Indianapolis. And so, unless there was a major shift in how they were preparing for games, I think it'd be pretty easy to see them going 0-4. And quite honestly, they get the Jets 2 more times in the next 3 games. So, I think bottom line is that second half schedule for New England, after making the playoffs last year, was absolutely murder. And they looks like they weren't quite ready for the prime time on that part. So that's kind of where I see that for New England. Now, as far as the current playoff picture, as I message out to everybody, in some cases or some spots, the playoff picture got a little bit more clear. I think in other areas it got a little bit more muddy out there. I think for the NFC, it looks like San Francisco, barring just something completely out of nowhere, is definitely going to get that third seed after that victory this week. So, we'll see. But then you've got New Orleans, the only other team in the NFC over 500 at 7-6. But I think, as it was alluded to, their schedule. There's a few teams on there that might give them some trouble, starting with San Francisco this upcoming week. And so there's no lock of New Orleans getting in quite yet, with the Giants there at 6-7. And you know. Um, there are two, I guess, what do you call it? I guess, what is it? The wild horses or the dark horses? The dark horse, couple of dark horses that may be able to get in there in the NFC. That's Seattle and Atlanta. Unlikely, but hey, we'll keep them in the race until until it's officially over there.
Until next week.
Until next week. Until next week. AFC, that one's a lot muddier. With the Kansas City and Los Angeles losses this past week, and then Indy, Pittsburgh, and Minnesota all winning. You've got basically, with 3 games to go, you got 2 teams there that are 7-6 trying to tied for that 4th spot. You got Pittsburgh at 6-7, just a game out. And then, you got Los Angeles. They're 8-5. Looked to be in pretty good shape for that 3rd seed, but, we're going to see what happens, because Kansas City and Los Angeles play each other 2 times in the next 3 weeks. And so there could be a lot of, fruit basket turnover going on in the AFC, as far as who's in, who's out, what the seedings are going to be. So the next 3 weeks, basically the AFC, the playoffs have officially started in the AFC right now. So it should be interesting to watch for sure. So those are some of my thoughts on it, Mark.
All right.
Well, we at least know that the Jets are in. That's certainly.
Oh, that's a given. That's a given. So.
Yeah, did we even have to mention that? I think
I think if we're looking at teams, I think if we're looking at my team, the defense has been pretty good most weeks. So there's been some notable instances in giving up 37 points to Chicago and 50 points in that disaster in New England, week 2. But most of these losses, the offense just hasn't gotten the job done. Certainly, lack of consistent play, no matter who was the starting quarterback this season, is a big issue. The running game disappeared this season. I mean, even with the problems at the quarterback position, a team still has to effectively run the ball in order to be competitive. And when your running game disappears, it's not happening.
Yep, I agree with you on that one, definitely. So,
and yet mathematically,
still limping. Yeah, we're hopping along here, just hopping along. So, all right.
Hopping in Washington, D.C. this weekend. We'll see how much is going to be happening after that game.
We'll talk after that one. So as we pivot over to the last segment this week, we're going to go into the Week 14 games. I see a couple of some good matchups there that will definitely I personally see 3 of them that I think are going to be really, really interesting to see what happens, that I'm looking forward to. So as we're going to go ahead and kick this off, you guys know the routine. We all get our lead pipe lock. For this, so far this season, as you see on the screen, Mitch right now is leading the overall. Oh no, I take that back. He dropped to second place this week in the overall predictions. Mitch is at 77-40. Dean is at 64-53. And the only thing that I'm in first place in right now is 78-39. So
that is not true, Mark. You have still given up the most sacks in the league. So don't sell yourself short, okay?
Oh, but hold on.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, but hold on now. With the lead pipe lock so far this season, Mitch and Dean are both tied at 7-6, and I am way back there at 4-9. So take it as you will, guys. So I think it's kind of a little fun thing that I think we like to do to see where our numbers are at. So so that's what we have. So now we're going to pivot over to the Week 14 games. And we are going to start off with the New York Jets hosting New England. They are giving the Jets 17.5. Mitch, what do you got?
Jets win, and they win big at home. That's about all I got to say. They're going to win big.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, I normally say that spread was way too large, but we are talking about the Jets, and even more so you look at who are they playing this week. And when you see that, then definitely Jets are going to win and cover. No doubt about it.
All right, and I have to go right along with you guys. I am picking the Jets as well. Next game we have, which I think is going to be one of the marquee matchups this week, Kansas City hosting LA. They are giving Kansas City 7.5. Dean.
Yeah, after moving the ball just 108 yards last week, the Chargers are going to be back this week, and they're going to play tough. I'm predicting the upset. I think the Chargers will pull off an upset in this game.
Okay. Mitch, what do you got, Coach?
I mean, the defending champs, after an embarrassing loss on the road, the world's against them. I don't know how anyone would pick me to win this game. If I wasn't the coach of Kansas City, I'd have to go with Los Angeles. But since I'm not, I'll take my Chiefs. But I mean, that's just that just might be too many factors going against us this week.
Now
But at least you can play the game this week, though.
We'll play it. I mean, it is a home game, so we don't have to travel very far to get to the stadium. So, we'll play the game, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Now you're talking about your loss. Let's not forget, LA lost last week as well.
That's what I was referring to. An embarrassing loss for Los Angeles. The way they lost that game, coming off of that, going on the road, defending champs, division race on the line, playoff on the line. I mean, too many factors to overcome there with that momentum Los Angeles has right now.
Well, I'm looking at. I think it's going to be a good matchup, as I mentioned early on, but I'm going to give the nod to Kansas City. I'm looking at the points for and points against. KC's put up more points than LA this season, and they've given up less points than LA this season. So I think that trend will continue, and I think KC's going to walk away with a victory on this one. Next game we have Minnesota hosting Jacksonville. They are giving Minnesota 10.5. Mitch.
Minnesota is going to win this game, and they're going to win, but honestly, neither team really scores a lot, so a 10-point spread actually might be kind of high, but Minnesota wins this game. And you know what? just because I always do this, I'm going to put the lead pipe on Minnesota this week.
Okay. Dean, what do you got?
Yeah, I actually think Minnesota will not only win this game, cover the spread. I mean, it might be a defensive game. It could be like 16-3, 14-3. But I think the spread will be upheld here.
All right. I'm going to keep mine simple, as you know I like to do. I'm just going to go ahead and go straight and make my pick. It's going to be Minnesota taking this victory this week. Next game, we have Indy hosting Pittsburgh. They are giving Indy 4.5 on this one. Dean.
Yeah, I think this will be a tough, close game, and I think the spread will be upheld. So I could see something like maybe like a 22 or 23-17 win by Indianapolis, but I think the Colts will win.
Okay. Mitch.
All right, breaking news. I'm changing my lead pipe lock.
Oh.
I'm
Okay.
changing my lead pipe lock. Breaking news. I'm looking at this and I think, Indianapolis and Pittsburgh, they both like to kind of grind it out, even though recently Indianapolis has had a little bit more success on the offensive side. But I got this feeling here that the steel curtain is going to travel, and it's going to travel to Indianapolis this week. And so I'm going to take Pittsburgh, and I'm going to put that one as my lead pipe lock. Minnesota can handle Jacksonville on their own. I'm going to put my lead pipe on Pittsburgh this week.
Okay. I'm going to keep on that same line with Mitch, and I'm going to go with Pittsburgh as well for them pulling off the upset. Next game, we have Washington hosting Atlanta, and they are giving the Redskins 9.5 on this one. Mitch.
Well, Washington technically really doesn't have anything to play for. Well, they do, because they could be that number one seed and have home field through the playoffs. So Washington will show up, and I think they'll be able to handle Atlanta in Washington, barring any massive rainstorms or anything that sometimes happens in Washington, as we know. But I think Washington will walk away with this victory.
All right. Coach, what's your team going to do this week?
They're going to play in the rain this weekend, and this is going to be a really messy game with possibly a lot of turnovers, a lot of defense, and we're going to see something at the end that's going to look like probably like a 16-14 Atlanta win.
Okay.
The forecast definitely says rain. Go to the weather channel. It's going to be raining very hard. Big time rain.
Okay. So you're going to have a monsoon out there.
Yeah, they're going to play in mud in that stadium.
Well, being that I'm hopping on one leg, we both have the same record. I got to go with Washington to try to take this one, have them take this one. And if I do my job on my end, I'll still be critical. I'll be in the ICU, but I'll still be breathing. So I am picking Washington on this win this week. So moving on, we have Las Vegas hosting the Giants. They are giving the Giants 3.5 on this one. Dean.
Yeah, I'm predicting the upset here. I think the Raiders will actually score some points in the second half and play solid defense as they've been. The Giants are definitely going to play tough, and it'll be a close game, but, don't be surprised to see something like 21-19 or 21-17 Raiders win.
All right, Mitch.
Honestly, I think you could put this game as a pick 'em. I have no idea who's going to win this game. Yeah. It's at home, Las Vegas. The way they move the ball, they won't allow the Giants to have a lot of possessions. So, I'll go with Las Vegas. Why not? I'll take Las Vegas.
All right. And Mark makes 3. I am going right along with you guys and going with Vegas for the upset this week. So
Especially if
taking
they
Vegas.
took all the screens out of the playbook.
Yep.
That's right.
So I am taking Vegas as well. Next game we have Chicago hosting Detroit, and they are giving Chicago 17.5. Mitch.
Well, barring any turnovers, I think Chicago wins this game easily. And we'll see what happens. But Detroit's already lost 4 in a row. Put 5 on the board. Chicago.
As Lee Corso would say, not so fast. Not so fast. This spread at 17.5 has some serious disrespect of the Lions. This game is going to be closer than a lot of people think. I think the Cardinals still win, but it's going to be by a lot less than 17.5. This will be a much closer game than expected. Detroit will make this game tough.
I agree with you on that as well. I still am picking Chicago right along with my 2 colleagues, but it's going to be a much closer spread than the 17.5. I don't think it's going to be that high. Second to last game this week of Week 14, we have another game that I think is going to be very, very interesting. And this goes along with KC and LA, Indy and Pitt. And the third one is San Francisco and New Orleans. A lot on the line on this one. They are giving San Francisco 6.5. Dean.
Yeah, this one I'm predicting an upset here. I'm not going to quite go so far as to put a lead pipe on this, but I think that the Saints have a lot. Well, both teams have a lot to play for, but I think the Saints definitely want to go back to postseason again like they did last season. And, the 49ers at times have come so close to making the playoffs and then just fall short. I think the Saints win this game in an upset.
Okay. Mitch.
Well, it is a must-win, I would say, for New Orleans, and a, nice to have for San Francisco. San Francisco does play tough defense and has one of the best scoring defenses in the league, and New Orleans does not score quite as often as you would hope a team who makes the playoffs would. But you know what? I like chaos. Let's have some chaos, and you know what? Let's have New Orleans win this game.
Okay. I lost to San Francisco last week, and I think they took the season series. I split with New Orleans. Again, I'm hopping on one leg, so I got to play cheerleader, and I am going to pick San Francisco because they are well out of reach, and I think that New Orleans needs to get brought down enough to allow me to kind of catch up with them in the race. So I am going for Frisco this week, and I'll be playing cheerleader for Charlie and the Niners this week, as they are going to be my lead pipe lock this week. So I don't like doing that, but we need a little help here. So we have to do our job, and we need some help. So last game. Yep. Yeah. Last game that we have for Week 14, we have Anaheim hosting Seattle. They are giving the Seahawks 4.5. Mitch.
I don't know, Dean. This probably should be a pick 'em. What do you think? I'm looking at this game, and Anaheim is, they did not trade away all of their picks like some other teams have. So it behooves them probably to lose this game. So I am going to take Seattle to try to keep those very slim playoff hopes alive. Go with Seattle.
All right. Dean.
Yeah, this game is definitely not a pick 'em. I don't see where that would come down. Now, Do you two remember who my lead pipe lock for this week is?
You don't have one.
I don't think you've had one.
You
yet.
don't have one.
That's right, because this game is my lead pipe lock. And I'm predicting that the Seahawks are going to win and cover the spread. It's not a lot of spread, but I think Seattle should win this game by substantially more than that 4.5, and we'll win this game. And it is my lead pipe lock of this week. Seattle wins this game.
Okay.
Take it to the bank.
I will definitely hold on to that and run with it. So we definitely need to get this win. You know, got to put a lot of effort in on this one and see what we can come up with to take that victory. So obviously that is my team, and that who is team I'm going with. So I am rolling with the Seattle Seahawks. Go Hawks! So
Yeah, I'm picking other teams to join the 6 and 8 club, but remember, you won our matchup, so you'll still get that tiebreak and make it into the playoffs over the Saints and possibly the 49ers or Giants.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just got to get in there. You know, I want to be. I'd like to be one of those teams that just kind of eke in there and be like, oh, that's a team you don't want to play. So definitely got to focus on that.
Two spots that are basically up for grabs in the NFC, because we're only really looking at the Redskins and Cardinals being sure to be in.
Yep, definitely be a lock in there right now. Definitely. Yep. So, as we come to wrap up this week's show, a lot of things that we discussed this week, a lot of interesting games. As I look at it, I see, truthfully, like I said, KC and LA, Indy and Pitt, and San Francisco, New Orleans. Definitely see those. Probably Vegas and the Giants as well. As far as some entertaining games, those first three, I think are going to be really, really good games. So, as we come to wrap this up, any final words that you have over there, Dean?
Yeah, we should have some interesting games this weekend, and some of these games between teams that are competing for these remaining playoff spots will almost be like playoff games. In a sense, some of them are.
Yes, indeed. Mitch, anything you got before you take us home?
Yeah, I'm going to. I think there are going to be 9 winners and 9 losers this week. That's what I'm thinking. No ties. And with that being said, let's get it.